My name is Emma, and I'm just your average 16-year-old girl living in the quiet village of Nelson's Hood. My stepfather, a skilled blacksmith, taught me the value of hard work and honesty. My days were filled with the rhythmic clang of his hammer on the anvil and the warm glow of the forge. The villagers knew me as the blacksmith's daughter, and life was simple but satisfying. In Nelson's Hood, the sunsets painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, and the laughter of children echoed through the cobblestone streets. My friends and I spent our free time exploring the nearby woods, dreaming of adventures beyond our small corner of the world. I never imagined that my unremarkable existence would be thrust into the spotlight, changing my life forever. It all began on a bright morning, one that started like any other. The villagers were bustling about their daily routines when a royal messenger, adorned in a resplendent uniform, rode into Nelson's Hood on a magnificent white steed. He bore a royal decree from the distant king, delivered with an air of urgency that sent ripples of curiosity throughout the village. As the messenger approached, I couldn't help but notice his furrowed brow and the hint of desperation in his eyes. He scanned the faces of the villagers until his gaze settled on me, a simple girl dressed in practical clothes, my hair tied back in a messy braid. The messenger dismounted and approached me, unfurling a scroll adorned with the royal seal.
"Are you Emma?"
he asked, his voice carrying a sense of urgency. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "Yes, I am. What brings you to Nelson's Hood?" The messenger wasted no time.
"Princess Amelia, the beloved daughter of our King Vincent and Queen Rosalind of Valeriana, has gone missing, and we are in dire need of a suitable replacement to maintain the kingdom's reputation. By order of the king, you are to accompany me to the royal palace immediately."
I stood there, dumbfounded, as the villagers gathered around, their whispers growing louder. I was just an ordinary girl, a blacksmith's daughter, and now I was being mistaken for royalty. The messenger's insistence left me with little choice but to agree, fearing the consequences of refusing the king's decree. Little did I know that my life was about to take a bewildering turn. My journey from Nelson's Hood to the royal palace would be the beginning of a remarkable adventure filled with unbelievable daily matters that I could scarcely imagine. The messenger's proclamation sent a wave of astonishment through Nelson's Hood. Villagers whispered excitedly, and curious onlookers gathered around to witness the unfolding spectacle. I, Emma, stood there, feeling a mix of confusion, fear, and a strange sense of destiny. The messenger, whose name I later learned was Sir Cedric, wasted no time. He took charge of the situation with an air of authority that left no room for objections. With a swift gesture, he summoned his horse, a magnificent creature that seemed to shimmer in the morning sunlight.
"Prepare yourself, Emma,"
Sir Cedric urged as he extended his hand.
"We must depart for the royal palace at once. Time is of the essence."
My heart raced as I glanced back at the familiar faces of the villagers, my family, and my friends. My stepfather, his brow furrowed with concern, nodded at me, his eyes conveying a mixture of pride and worry. I squeezed his rough, calloused hand for what might be the last time in a long while. With a heavy heart and a sense of trepidation, I took Sir Cedric's hand, and he helped me onto his horse. As I settled into the saddle behind him, I cast one last glance at Nelson's Hood, my home, the place I had known my entire life. The cobblestone streets, the cosy cottages, and the towering oak tree under which I used to play, they all seemed to blur together, fading into the distance. Sir Cedric spurred his steed into motion, and we began our journey toward the royal palace. The village of Nelson's Hood shrank into the horizon, and I couldn't help but wonder about the fate that awaited me in the world beyond. During the ride, Sir Cedric explained the dire situation in the kingdom. Princess Amelia had gone missing under mysterious circumstances, and her absence had plunged the entire realm into turmoil. The king and queen were desperate to find a suitable replacement to maintain the kingdom's reputation and ensure stability. With each passing mile, the landscape transformed from the familiar countryside of Nelson's Hood into the grandeur of the kingdom's capital. Towering spires and opulent buildings loomed ahead, signalling our approach to the royal palace. As we finally reached the palace gates, I was struck by the sheer magnificence of the structure. Its walls were adorned with intricate carvings, and colourful banners fluttered in the breeze. Guards in gleaming armour stood at attention, their stern expressions softened by curiosity as they saw me. A simple girl from Nelson's Hood, accompanied by Sir Cedric. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the unknown as we entered the palace grounds. Little did I know that my life was about to take a most extraordinary and bewildering turn within the grandeur of the royal palace. The moment we passed through the towering palace gates, my heart raced with a mixture of awe and anxiety. The palace courtyard was a spectacle of grandeur, with fountains that sparkled in the sunlight and meticulously manicured gardens that seemed to stretch on forever. As we dismounted, I couldn't help but feel like an impostor in this opulent world. Sir Cedric led me through the palace's labyrinthine corridors, each one adorned with gilded artwork and tapestries that depicted the kingdom's history. Servants in splendid attire bustled about, their gazes a mix of curiosity and reverence as they caught sight of me. They knew nothing of my humble origins. To them, I was Princess Amelia returned. We finally arrived at a sumptuous chamber, the likes of which I had only seen in my wildest dreams. It was adorned with velvet drapes, intricately carved furniture, and a massive four-poster bed with silk sheets fit for royalty. Before I could fully comprehend the situation, servants flooded in, ready to attend to my every need. I was whisked away to the dressing room, where a team of maids and hairdressers set to work. They undressed me from my simple attire and began the arduous task of transforming me into Princess Amelia. Layers of elaborate gowns, adorned with pearls and jewels, were carefully placed upon me. My hair, once a simple braid, was woven into an intricate coiffure adorned with sparkling pins. The transformation was astonishing. When I looked at my reflection in the ornate mirror, I scarcely recognised myself. The girl who had left Nelson's Hood that morning had disappeared beneath layers of silk and lace. In her place stood a princess, regal and unrecognisable. As I stepped out of the dressing room, I was greeted by a chorus of gasps from the maids and servants who had worked their magic on me. They bowed deeply, their faces filled with admiration and reverence. I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt, for I knew that I was not truly Princess Amelia. Sir Cedric, who had been overseeing the transformation, nodded with satisfaction.
"You look every bit the princess, Your Highness,"
he said, addressing me with a title that felt both foreign and absurd.
"It is time for you to meet the royal family."
With a sense of trepidation, I followed Sir Cedric through the labyrinthine corridors once more, this time on my way to meet the King and Queen. My heart raced, and my mind raced with thoughts of how I had been mistaken for royalty, and the web of deception that had ensnared me. As the grand double doors to the throne room swung open, I stepped inside, into a world of power, intrigue, and responsibility that I was entirely unprepared for. My journey as an imposter princess had only just begun, and I could scarcely imagine the unbelievable daily matters that awaited me within the castle walls. The throne room was a vast expanse of marble floors and towering pillars. At the far end, a magnificent golden throne sat upon a raised dais, flanked by crimson banners bearing the royal crest. Seated upon the throne were King Vincent and Queen Rosalind, a regal couple who exuded an aura of authority and grace. As I walked down the centre aisle, my heart pounded with every step. I couldn't help but feel like an imposter, a girl from Nelson's Hood thrust into a world of grandeur and responsibility. Sir Cedric had instructed me to maintain a composed demeanour, but my trembling hands betrayed my unease.
"Your Highness,"
Sir Cedric announced, his voice carrying through the throne room.
"may I present Princess Amelia?"
The King and Queen turned their attention toward me, their expressions a mix of hope and apprehension. I curtsied as gracefully as I could manage, my mind racing with thoughts of how to maintain this charade.
"Welcome home, Amelia,"
King Vincent said, his voice warm and tinged with relief.
"The entire kingdom has been in turmoil since your disappearance."
I nodded, doing my best to mimic the demeanour of a princess. "I apologise for causing such concern, Father." Queen Rosalind rose from her throne and approached me. She was a striking woman, with a regal presence that was impossible to ignore.
"You have returned to us at a time of great need, my dear,"
she said, her eyes searching mine.
We must all work together to restore the stability of our kingdom.
With that, the royal family, myself included, retreated to a smaller chamber where they explained the complex intricacies of palace life. There were court sessions, formal banquets, and an unending stream of etiquette lessons to navigate. Every aspect of my daily life was tightly controlled, and the weight of my supposed responsibilities began to settle in. The palace was a world unto itself, filled with servants who attended to my every need. I had an entire wing of the castle to myself, complete with a lavish bedroom and a sitting room adorned with priceless artworks. The grandeur was undeniable, but it felt like a gilded cage, suffocating in its opulence. Days turned into weeks, and I struggled to adapt to my new life as Princess Amelia. Court sessions were a whirlwind of politics and intrigue, where nobles vied for favour, and advisors whispered in hushed tones about the state of the kingdom. I was expected to make important decisions, some of which would shape the fate of our realm. The etiquette lessons were equally grueling. I learned to curtsy with precision, to speak with eloquence, and to navigate the intricate web of royal protocol. Each lesson was a reminder of how little I truly belonged in this world of nobility and grandeur. Amidst all the splendour and formality, I couldn't help but long for the simplicity of my life in Nelson's Hood. I missed my family, my friends, and the freedom to be myself. I felt like a prisoner in a golden cage, and I yearned for a way to break free from this elaborate deception. Little did I know that the palace held its own secrets and challenges, and my life as an imposter princess was about to become even more bewildering and complex. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself immersed in the intricate web of palace life. The grandeur of the royal palace was undeniable, but it came with a price, a life of relentless formality, political intrigue, and unending scrutiny. My mornings began early, with lessons in etiquette and courtly manners. Lady Amara, a stern but well-meaning instructor, drilled me on the nuances of curtsying, addressing nobles, and maintaining proper posture. My every word and gesture were scrutinised, and I felt the weight of my supposed royal responsibilities bearing down on me. Court sessions, held in the opulent throne room, were a labyrinth of politics and intrigue. Nobles from across the kingdom gathered to seek the favour of the king and queen, often using elaborate flattery and subtle alliances to achieve their goals. I sat alongside the royal family, trying to appear regal and composed, but I felt like a mere pawn in a much larger game. The palace was a world of its own, with countless corridors, hidden chambers, and servants who catered to my every whim. I had an entire wing of the castle to myself, complete with a luxurious bedroom, a sitting room adorned with priceless artworks, and a wardrobe filled with extravagant gowns. Despite the luxury, I couldn't help but feel like an imposter. My only solace came from the occasional letters I managed to exchange with my family and friends in Nelson's Hood. They were my lifeline to the world I had left behind, a reminder of the simple joys and genuine connections I had once known. Each letter brought a mixture of longing and relief, and I treasured them like precious gems. In the evenings, I would often retreat to the palace gardens, a sanctuary of tranquility amid the chaos of court life. The moonlight cast a serene glow over the blooming flowers and ancient trees, and for a brief moment I could almost forget the charade I was living. However, the palace held its own secrets, and I soon realised that not everything was as it seemed. Whispers of conspiracy and hidden agendas floated through the air, and it became apparent that even within the palace walls, trust was a rare commodity. One evening, while wandering through a dimly lit corridor, I overheard a conversation between two nobles. They spoke in hushed tones, their words dripping with intrigue. It was clear that there were those who doubted my legitimacy as Princess Amelia, and they were determined to uncover the truth. The revelation left me with a sinking feeling. The palace, once a place of opulence and privilege, had become a battleground of politics and deception. I realised that I was not only living a lie, but also navigating a perilous path filled with hidden dangers. As I lay in my ornate bed that night, I couldn't help but wonder how long I could maintain this elaborate deception, and what would become of me if my true identity were ever discovered. The palace, with its endless complexities and secrets, had become an unpredictable and bewildering world, and I knew that I was in for an even more tumultuous journey in the days to come. As the days passed in the gilded cage of the royal palace, my unease and longing for my old life in Nelsonshood grew stronger. The intricacies of court life, the endless formalities, and the constant scrutiny of nobles and advisors left me feeling suffocated. I yearned for the simplicity of my stepfather's blacksmith shop and the laughter of my friends in the village. One evening, as I sat in my lavish sitting room, staring at the elaborate gown I was expected to wear at the upcoming royal banquet, I felt a surge of determination. I could no longer bear the weight of this deception, and I longed to return to my true home. I knew that escaping from the palace would not be easy. The guards were vigilant, and the palace was a maze of corridors and chambers. But I also knew that I couldn't remain a princess any longer, living a lie that grew more unbearable with each passing day. I turned to the few palace staff members I'd come to trust during my time in the palace. Marjorie, the kind-hearted chambermaid, and Samuel, the elderly gardener, had both shown me genuine kindness. They had recognized the struggle behind the facade and offered me their support. One evening, I discreetly summoned Marjorie and Samuel to my sitting room. I spoke to them in hushed tones, revealing my true identity and my desire to escape the palace. At first, they were shocked, but as I explained the reasons behind my decision, their expressions turned sympathetic. Marjorie, with her nimble fingers and knowledge of the palace layout, devised a plan. She had overheard the guards discussing their shift changes, and she believed there was a brief window of opportunity during the late hours when the palace was relatively unguarded. Samuel, with his knowledge of the palace gardens, knew of a hidden passage that led to the outer walls. It was a passage used by servants in times of need, and it had remained a well-kept secret. We set our escape for the darkest part of the night, when the moon hung low in the sky. Marjorie managed to acquire a set of clothing that would allow me to blend in with the palace staff. The gown and cloak were plain, a stark contrast to the extravagant attire I had worn as Princess Amelia. The night of the escape arrived, and my heart pounded with anticipation and fear. As the palace slept, I made my way to the designated meeting point, a dimly lit corridor near the servants' quarters. Marjorie and Samuel were there, their faces marked by a mix of determination and worry. With Marjorie's guidance, we slipped through the palace's labyrinthine passages, avoiding the guards' watchful eyes. The hidden passage that Samuel had described led us to the palace gardens, where the scent of blooming flowers filled the air. Our escape was not without challenges. We encountered locked gates and hidden obstacles, but Marjorie's resourcefulness and Samuel's knowledge of the gardens proved invaluable. With each step, I could feel the weight of my false identity lifting, replaced by a growing sense of freedom and authenticity. Finally, we reached the outer walls of the palace. The moonlight illuminated a small opening, concealed by ivy and vines. With Samuel's help, I climbed through, leaving the palace behind me. As I stood on the other side, I took a deep breath, savouring the cool night air and the feeling of liberation. My escape from the palace was only the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I knew that there would be challenges and uncertainties ahead, but I also knew that I could no longer live a lie. I was determined to return to Nelsonshood, to my family and friends, and to the simple, genuine life I had once known. As I disappeared into the darkness, leaving the palace and its bewildering daily matters behind, I felt a profound sense of relief and hope for the adventures that awaited me on the path back to my true self. The moon hung low in the night sky as I stood on the other side of the palace walls, feeling a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. The escape from the palace had been a daring endeavour, and now, with each step I took away from that gilded cage, I reclaimed a piece of my true self. Marjorie and Samuel, the two palace staff members who had helped me plan and execute the escape, stood beside me. They shared my relief and determination, for they had become not only accomplices, but also friends in this audacious venture. We knew that our journey back to Nelsonshood would be fraught with challenges, but we were undeterred. I had returned to my simple gown, a stark contrast to the regal attire I had worn as an imposter princess. With Marjorie and Samuel by my side, we slipped into the night, leaving the palace grounds behind. Our path took us through the outskirts of the kingdom's capital, where the streets were deserted, and the only sounds were the hushed whispers of the night. The shadows concealed us as we made our way toward the road that would lead us to Nelson's Hood. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, we encountered our first hurdle, a group of royal guards patrolling the area. We hid behind a copse of trees, hearts pounding as they passed by. It was a close call, but we remained unnoticed. The journey was arduous, and the days turned into a blur of constant movement and caution. We travelled by night, taking shelter during the day to avoid detection. Food and water were scarce, and we relied on Samuel's resourcefulness to forage for sustenance. During our journey, Marjorie and Samuel shared stories of their own lives, and I realised that they too had faced hardships and challenges. Marjorie had once been a servant in the royal kitchen, while Samuel had tended to the palace gardens for decades. Both had yearned for a life beyond the palace walls, and my escape had given them the chance to break free as well. As we ventured farther from the capital, the landscape changed, and the signs of civilization grew scarcer. We encountered small villages where we could purchase supplies and find temporary refuge. It was in these villages that I realised how much had changed during my time as Princess Amelia. News of my disappearance had spread far and wide, and tales of my escape had become a legend among the common people. Many saw me as a symbol of hope and defiance against the oppressive nobility. While I appreciated their support, I also felt a growing responsibility to do right by their faith in me. Our journey took weeks, and the miles seemed endless. But eventually, we reached the outskirts of Nelson's Hood. The sight of the familiar cobblestone streets and the towering oak tree brought tears to my eyes. I was home, and the sense of relief and belonging was overwhelming. As we entered the village, the townsfolk recognized me immediately, and a wave of cheers and applause greeted our arrival. The legend of the blacksmith's daughter turned imposter princess who had returned home had come full circle. My stepfather, the village blacksmith, emerged from his workshop, and our tearful reunion was a moment I would treasure forever. My friends rushed to embrace me, and the village of Nelson's Hood had never felt more like home. I knew that my adventures had only just begun, and that I would carry the memories and lessons of my time as an imposter princess with me. But as I looked around at the faces of those I loved, I knew that I had made the right choice. My true home was here in Nelson's Hood, where I could be myself and live a life filled with genuine love and laughter. And so, as the village of Nelson's Hood celebrated my return, I embraced the simple, authentic life that had always been mine, knowing that it was the greatest treasure of all. Life in Nelson's Hood settled into a comforting routine after my return. I resumed helping my stepfather at the blacksmith's forge and spent countless hours reconnecting with friends and neighbours. The simplicity of my old life was a balm to my soul, and I cherished every moment of it. Months passed, and the memory of my time as an imposter princess began to fade. The village had embraced me once more as the blacksmith's daughter, and I relished in the authenticity of those who knew me for who I truly was. One crisp autumn morning, as I worked the bellows in my stepfather's forge, I overheard whispers from villagers passing by. Their voices were filled with excitement and curiosity.
"Have you heard?"
one villager said in hushed tones.
"Princess Amelia has returned to the kingdom."
I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The name that had once been my own was now spoken with a sense of awe and reverence. It couldn't be true, I thought. I had escaped the palace and returned to Nelson's Hood. There was no way Princess Amelia could have returned. As the day wore on, the rumour spread like wildfire throughout the village. Villagers gathered in clusters, discussing the news in hushed voices. They spoke of the return of the princess as if it were a miracle, a sign of hope and stability for the kingdom. Unable to contain my curiosity, I joined one of the clusters of villagers. They were recounting tales of Princess Amelia's triumphant return, how she had come back to the palace with a newfound wisdom and strength.
"She's not the same girl who disappeared,"
one villager said, shaking his head in wonder.
"She's a true leader now, and the kingdom is blessed to have her back."
Dread gnawed at my stomach as I listened to their stories. How could this be? I had left the palace, returned to Nelson's Hood, and there was no way I could have been in two places at once. The villagers' excitement continued to grow, and a sense of anticipation filled the air. The The news of Princess Amelia's return had become a beacon of hope for the kingdom, and they couldn't wait to see her again. That night, I lay in my simple bed, the weight of the rumours pressing down on me. I knew I had to find out the truth, to unravel the mystery of this supposed return. With determination burning in my heart, I made a plan to visit the neighbouring villages and gather information about this fake Princess Amelia. As I set out on my quest for answers, I couldn't help but wonder about the impostor who had taken my place in the palace. What had driven them to impersonate the princess, and what would happen when the truth inevitably came to light? The journey to uncover the truth would be filled with uncertainty and danger, but I knew it was a path I had to follow. My determination to uncover the truth about the impostor who had taken my place as Princess Amelia led me on a journey through the neighbouring villages. I discreetly gathered information, listened to the whispers of the townsfolk, and pieced together a puzzling tale. It became clear that the impostor who had assumed my identity was cunning and manipulative. She had fooled not only the palace staff and nobility, but also the common people. Her return to the palace had been accompanied by elaborate stories of personal growth and newfound wisdom. As I ventured deeper into my investigation, I realised that this fake Princess Amelia had some powerful allies within the kingdom. The rumours spoke of advisors and nobles who had vouched for her authenticity, and it seemed that she had managed to maintain a convincing facade. With each revelation, my determination to expose the truth grew stronger. I knew that returning to the palace was a dangerous endeavour, but I had to confront this impostor and clear my name. I made my way back to Nelson's Hood, where I hoped to gather support and formulate a plan. However, as I arrived in the village, I found it swathed in an air of trepidation. Villagers spoke in hushed tones, and there was a palpable sense of unease. It was then that I learned of a new development. The impostor Princess Amelia was planning to visit Nelson's Hood. She claimed that her return was a chance to reconnect with her roots and express gratitude to the village that had given her strength during her disappearance. This news sent shockwaves through the village. The prospect of a royal visit was both exciting and nerve-wracking, but the uncertainty surrounding the impostor's intentions cast a shadow over the excitement. I knew that I had to act quickly. Returning to the palace to confront the fake princess was the only way to expose her true identity. But I also realised that I couldn't undertake this perilous journey alone. That evening, I sought out Marjorie and Samuel, the two loyal friends who had helped me escape the palace. They had stood by me during my darkest hours, and I trusted them implicitly. As I shared my plan to return to the palace and unmask the impostor, Marjorie and Samuel exchanged glances filled with concern and determination. They had witnessed my struggles as Princess Amelia and knew the risks involved in my return. Nevertheless, they were unwavering in their support. Marjorie, with her resourcefulness and knowledge of the palace layout, would help me navigate its complex corridors. Samuel, with his expertise in the palace gardens, would provide cover and assist in evading the guards. We spent hours devising a plan, taking into account the impostor's visit to Nelson's Hood and the chaos it might bring. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril, and the impostor's allies within the palace would pose a formidable challenge. But as Marjorie and Samuel pledged their aid, I felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. With their support, I would return to the palace and confront the impostor, unravelling the web of deception that had entangled us both. As the impostor's visit to Nelson's Hood drew nearer, our preparations intensified. With Marjorie and Samuel by my side, I was ready to face the bewildering daily matters of the palace once more, and to expose the fake Princess Amelia for who she truly was. The day of the impostor Princess Amelia's visit to Nelson's Hood arrived with an air of tension that hung over the village like a storm cloud. The villagers had gathered in the central square, awaiting her arrival, their whispers filled with curiosity and apprehension. I stood among them, disguised in the attire of a commoner, with Marjorie and Samuel nearby. We had prepared for this moment meticulously, and the plan was simple. I would confront the impostor and expose her true identity in front of the villagers. The royal procession soon entered the village, with guards on horseback and a grand carriage that bore the royal crest. A woman, elegantly dressed and adorned with jewels, emerged from the carriage. She was the spitting image of the princess I had once impersonated, and her presence was both imposing and convincing. As the impostor, Princess Amelia, addressed the villagers, she spoke with eloquence and charm, recounting stories of her disappearance and her triumphant return to the palace. The villagers listened with rapt attention, their skepticism giving way to awe. But I knew the truth, and it was time to reveal it. Stepping forward, I raised my voice so that all could hear. "Stop!" I called out. "This woman is not Princess Amelia." The impostor turned to face me, her eyes narrowing in surprise and annoyance. The villagers gasped, their attention now fully focused on the confrontation unfolding before them. I continued, my voice unwavering. "I am Emma, the true Princess Amelia, and I have returned to expose this deception." A murmur of disbelief swept through the crowd, and the impostor's face contorted with anger.
How dare you?
She hissed. "You're an imposter trying to steal my identity." I knew that the situation had become a dangerous standoff, and I had to prove my claim. Marjorie and Samuel stepped forward, providing evidence that only those who had been in the palace during my time as Princess Amelia could know. Marjorie recounted the secret passages within the palace, describing their locations and purpose. Samuel spoke of the hidden garden, known only to the true royal family, and its significance to me during my time in the palace. The impostor's confidence wavered as the truth began to emerge, and the villagers listened intently, their doubts growing. But she still clung to her deception, insisting that I was an impostor sent to discredit her. It was then that I revealed the final piece of evidence, a necklace that had belonged to Princess Amelia. It bore a unique inscription known only to the royal family. As I held it aloft, the impostor's face drained of colour and she faltered. With a sense of victory, I addressed the villagers once more. "This necklace belonged to the true Princess Amelia. I have carried it with me to prove my identity." The impostor's facade crumbled, and she was left with no choice but to confess her deception. She had been a commoner who had sought power and privilege by impersonating me, and her allies within the palace had assisted her in the charade. The villagers, initially taken in by her deception, now turned their anger toward the impostor. She was escorted away by the guards, her reign of deception brought to an end. The cheers of the villagers filled the air as they celebrated the revelation of the true Princess Amelia. I may have returned to the palace as an impostor, but in Nelson's Hood, I was embraced for who I truly was, an ordinary girl named Emma. As the village rejoiced, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude for Marjorie and Samuel, who had stood by me throughout this journey. With their support, I had uncovered the truth and returned to my authentic life in Nelson's Hood. The bewildering daily matters of the palace were behind me, and I had found my true place among the people who knew and loved me for who I was. My adventures had led me on a remarkable journey, but it was here, in the village of Nelson's Hood, that I had truly found my home and the happiness that had always been mine. In the aftermath of the impostor's exposure and removal, life in Nelson's Hood returned to its tranquil rhythm. The villagers celebrated my return as Princess Amelia, though I had made it clear that I wished to be known simply as Emma, the blacksmith's daughter. As the weeks passed, news of the impostor's deception spread throughout the kingdom. The palace was left in a state of upheaval, and King Vincent, Queen Rosalind, and their advisors grappled with the consequences of the deception that had occurred under their very noses. One day, a royal messenger arrived in Nelson's Hood, bearing an official letter sealed with the royal crest. It was an invitation for me to return to the palace, not as a princess this time, but as a guest of honour. The king had requested my presence, and I couldn't ignore the summons. With Marjorie and Samuel by my side, I returned to the palace, where I was greeted by an air of formality and tension. King Vincent, Queen Rosalind, and their advisors awaited me in the grand chamber where I had once stood as an impostor princess. King Vincent spoke first, his voice tinged with a mix of gratitude and embarrassment.
"Emma,"
he said, addressing me with a title I had never expected to hear from him.
"we owe you a debt of gratitude. Your bravery and determination in exposing the impostor have saved our kingdom from further turmoil."
Queen Rosalind nodded in agreement, her expression filled with genuine appreciation.
You have shown immense courage and integrity, and for that we are truly thankful.
Their words were unexpected, and I wondered what the purpose of this meeting truly was. It was then that the king made an announcement that left me utterly bewildered.
As a token of our appreciation and in recognition of your role in uncovering the deception,
King Vincent began.
we have decided to extend a most unusual offer. We would like to officially adopt you as a member of the royal family, to become our royal ward and a beloved member of our court.
The room fell silent as the gravity of the king's words sunk in. Adoption into the royal family was an extraordinary honour and a testament to the trust they had in me. But it was also a responsibility that I had never imagined shouldering. I exchanged glances with Marjorie and Samuel, who stood by me with expressions of support and understanding. The king's offer was a gesture of reconciliation, an acknowledgement of the chaos that had unfolded under their rule. With a mixture of surprise and gratitude, I accepted the king's proposal, becoming a loyal member of the royal family in a new capacity. My life had taken the most unexpected turns, from an imposter princess to a blacksmith's daughter, and now as an adopted member of the royal family. As I embarked on this new chapter of my life, I couldn't help but reflect on the bewildering daily matters that had brought me to this point. My journey had been filled with challenges and surprises, but it had also revealed the strength of my character and the enduring bonds of friendship. And so, as I settled into my new role within the palace walls, I embraced the opportunities and responsibilities that came with it. My adventures may have led me on an unexpected path, but they had also brought me to a place where I could make a difference and be true to myself, no matter how bewildering the circumstances. Life within the palace as a member of the royal family brought a new set of responsibilities and challenges. I was now officially known as Princess Amelia, and I found myself immersed in the bewildering daily matters of court life once more. However, this time the role was genuine, and my presence was welcomed with open arms. King Vincent and Queen Rosalind treated me with warmth and kindness, as did the members of the court. While the memory of the impostor's deception still lingered, my acceptance into the royal family was met with support and goodwill. As Princess Amelia, I took on a range of duties and responsibilities, including attending court sessions, participating in diplomatic meetings, and representing the kingdom at official functions. It was a demanding role, but I was determined to fulfill my obligations with integrity and dedication. The palace staff, who had once served me during my time as an imposter, now treated me with genuine respect and loyalty. Marjorie and Samuel continued to play integral roles in my life, serving as trusted advisors and confidants. Their unwavering support was a constant source of strength. Months passed, and I began to settle into my role as Princess Amelia. I found satisfaction in my duties and a sense of purpose in working to improve the kingdom's welfare. The bewildering daily matters of court life no longer felt as daunting as they once had, and I embraced the challenges with determination. However, the most significant moment of my time as Princess Amelia came when I had the opportunity to address the kingdom's subjects. The people had endured turmoil and deception, and I wanted to offer them words of comfort and hope. Standing before a vast crowd in the palace courtyard, I spoke of unity, resilience, and the strength of our kingdom. I acknowledged the challenges we had faced and expressed gratitude for the support of the people. The true strength of a kingdom lies in the hearts of its people, I said, my voice carrying through the air. We have weathered a storm together, and now, as we stand united, we shall overcome any obstacle that comes our way. The cheers and applause that followed were a testament to the people's resilience and their hope for a brighter future. The real Princess Amelia had returned, and together we would rebuild the kingdom stronger than ever. In the midst of my royal duties and the challenges that came with them, I never forgot the lessons I had learned during my time as an imposter. I had come to understand the importance of authenticity, integrity, and the value of genuine connections. As the days turned into weeks and the bewildering daily matters of court life continued, I remained committed to being true to myself and using my position to make a positive impact on the kingdom. The real Princess Amelia had returned, and I was determined to ensure that her reign was marked by sincerity, compassion, and a steadfast commitment to the well-being of her people. As I settled into my role as Princess Amelia within the palace walls, life continued with a sense of purpose and direction. The kingdom had stabilized, and I took pride in contributing to its well-being through my royal duties. Despite the acceptance and support I received from the people of the kingdom, there was always a lingering sense of unease. The memory of the imposter who had impersonated me still weighed heavily on my mind. I couldn't help but wonder about the fate of the real Princess Amelia, whose identity had been stolen for so long. One day, while I was attending a diplomatic meeting with the kingdom's neighbouring allies, a messenger arrived with urgent news. He carried a letter sealed with the royal crest, and my heart quickened as I read its contents. The letter was from a remote village named Azenwell on the outskirts of the kingdom, where rumours had surfaced about a young woman who claimed to be Princess Amelia. The villagers were convinced of her authenticity, and they implored the palace to investigate. I knew I had to act swiftly. With Marjorie and Samuel by my side, I embarked on a journey to the remote village, determined to uncover the truth about the missing Princess Amelia. Azenwell was nestled in a secluded valley, far from the bustling capital. It was a place where time seemed to move slowly, and the villagers lived simple, contented lives. As we arrived, we were met with curious but welcoming faces. The young woman who had claimed to be Princess Amelia was named Lila. She had been living in Azenwell for a decent time, and her presence had become a source of fascination and hope for the villagers. They believed that she was the long-lost princess, and she had become an integral part of their community. Lila's story was a bewildering tale in itself. She had no memory of her life before arriving in Azenwell, but she bore a striking resemblance to the real Princess Amelia. The villagers had taken her in and cared for her, and she had embraced her role as a beloved member of their community. As I spoke with Lila and observed her interactions with the villagers, I couldn't deny the uncanny resemblance she bore to me. Her mannerisms and speech echoed my own, and it was clear that she had been raised with a sense of royalty. But as I delved deeper into her story, I began to uncover inconsistencies and gaps in her memory. She could not recall the palace or her life before arriving in Azenwell, and her recollections were fragmented and unclear. With Marjorie and Samuel's assistance, we conducted a thorough investigation, examining every detail of Lila's past and comparing it to the missing Princess Amelia's history. The truth, when it emerged, was a startling revelation. Lila was not the real Princess Amelia. Instead, she was a young woman who had suffered a traumatic experience, leading to amnesia and a sense of displacement. The villagers, driven by their desire to find their missing princess, had created a narrative around her. As I revealed the truth to Lila and the villagers, there was a mixture of disappointment and relief. Lila had found a new home and a sense of belonging in Azenwell, and the villagers had hoped for a reunion with their missing princess. While the truth was a bitter pill to swallow, it also brought closure to a long-standing mystery. Returning to the palace, I couldn't help but reflect on the bewildering journey that had led me here. My life had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, from impersonating a princess to discovering the missing Princess Amelia. As I resumed my royal duties, I carried with me the lessons of authenticity, integrity, and the importance of genuine connections. The kingdom had weathered many storms, and I was determined to lead with compassion and a steadfast commitment to the well-being of its people. The missing Princess Amelia had been found, and I would ensure that her true return would be marked by a reign of sincerity and a dedication to the kingdom's prosperity. The bewildering daily matters of court life continued, but my resolve remained unwavering as I embraced my role with a sense of purpose and authenticity. As I settled back into my duties as Princess Amelia within the palace, the revelation of the missing Princess Amelia's true fate continued to weigh on my mind. The journey to the remote village Azenwell, where we had discovered Lila, had been both bewildering and emotional. The truth of her identity had brought closure to a long-standing mystery, but it had also left me with a lingering sense of unease. One day, as I was going through court documents in my private chamber, a messenger arrived bearing news that would change everything once again. This time, the message was not an urgent summons or a call to action. but rather a revelation that would shake the very foundation of the kingdom. The letter was written in a hurried hand, and it bore no royal seal or formal address. It was from a village elder who had discovered something extraordinary. A young woman who claimed to be Princess Amelia had been found in their village, Lysantel. My heart pounded in my chest as I read the letter. How could this be? Had there been another impostor? The bewildering daily matters of court life seemed insignificant in the face of this revelation. Without hesitation, I summoned Marjorie and Samuel, and together we set out for Lysantel, where the missing Princess Amelia had supposedly been found. The journey was fraught with anxiety and uncertainty, as we tried to make sense of this baffling turn of events. As we arrived in Lysantel, I was met with curious but cautious faces. The villagers had taken in the young woman, who claimed to be Princess Amelia, and she had become a cherished member of their community. They were eager to reunite her with her royal family. Meeting this young woman, whose name was Amelia, was a surreal experience. She bore a striking resemblance to me, with the same eyes, the same voice, and the same regal bearing. It was as though I was looking at a reflection of myself, and the bewildering feeling of meeting my doppelganger left me momentarily speechless. Amelia's story was as perplexing as Lila's had been. She had no memory of her life before arriving in Lysantel, and her recollections were filled with gaps and fragments. The villagers, convinced that she was the true Princess Amelia, had taken her in and provided her with love and care. As I spoke with Amelia and listened to her story, I couldn't deny the eerie similarity between her experiences and my own. It was as though fate had played a cruel trick, entwining our lives in a bewildering web of confusion and identity. With Marjorie and Samuel's assistance, we conducted a thorough investigation into Amelia's past, comparing her history to the missing Princess Amelia's records. The truth, when it emerged, was a staggering revelation. Amelia was indeed the real Princess Amelia, the same one who had disappeared from the palace years ago. She had been living a simple life in Lysantel, her memory lost to her, while I had taken her place as an impostor in the palace. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. I had spent times impersonating the princess, believing myself to be the true Princess Amelia, while the real princess had been living in obscurity. The bewilderment and shock of this revelation were overwhelming. Returning to the palace, I couldn't help but reflect on the bewildering journey that had brought me here. My life had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, from impersonating a princess to discovering the missing Princess Amelia, only to realize that I had been the imposter all along. As I resumed my royal duties, I carried with me the lessons of authenticity, integrity, and the importance of genuine connections. The kingdom had weathered many storms, and I was determined to lead with compassion and a steadfast commitment to the well-being of its people. The true return of Princess Amelia had brought closure to a long-standing mystery, but it had also brought about a profound reckoning with my own identity. The bewildering daily matters of court life continued, but my resolve remained unwavering as I embraced my role with a sense of purpose and authenticity. The revelation that Amelia, the real Princess Amelia, had been living in obscurity in Lysantel, while I had impersonated her within the palace walls, left me in a state of profound bewilderment. It was a cruel twist of fate that had brought us to this baffling crossroads. Amelia's return to the palace was met with a mixture of astonishment, joy, and trepidation. The palace staff who had once served me as Princess Amelia now had to adjust to the presence of the true princess, and the bewildering daily matters of court life became even more complex. As for me, I grappled with a sense of identity crisis. I had believed myself to be Princess Amelia for so long, and now my true identity as Emma, the blacksmith's daughter, felt like a distant memory. The palace was no longer my home, and my role as a member of the royal family was rendered obsolete. Amelia's return brought with it a sense of unity and celebration within the kingdom. The people were overjoyed to have their true princess back, and the palace was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. However, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance and subsequent return remained shrouded in mystery. It was then that a wise old sage named Timothy from a distant land visited the kingdom. He had heard of the bewildering events that had transpired and believed that he could offer insights into the curse that had befallen the kingdom. Gathering in the grand chamber, King Vincent, Queen Rosalind, Amelia and I listened intently as the sage spoke. He explained that the curse that had befallen the kingdom was a result of a complex and ancient enchantment, one that had entangled the fates of two individuals. According to Timothy, the curse had been triggered by a powerful artifact, one that had the ability to exchange the identities of two people. When used in desperation, it could lead to a bewildering chain of events, causing immense confusion and suffering. The sage's words struck a chord within me. It was as though he had uncovered the very heart of the bewildering events that had transpired. The artifact had been responsible for the exchange of Amelia's and my identities, leading to times of deception and confusion. With Timothy's guidance, we embarked on a quest to locate the artifact and break the curse that had plagued the kingdom for so long. It was a treacherous journey, filled with perilous encounters and trials that tested our resolve. As we finally reached the hidden chamber where the artifact lay, a sense of urgency filled the air. The artifact, an intricately crafted mirror, radiated a mysterious aura. It was a bewitching object that had caused so much turmoil. With the sage's guidance, we performed a ritual to break the curse and return the artifact to its dormant state. The room was filled with a blinding light, and as the enchantment dissipated, a profound sense of relief washed over us. The curse that had ensnared the kingdom for so long was finally broken. The bewildering events that had transpired were now a part of history, a testament to the enduring strength of the kingdom and its people. With the artifact secured and the curse lifted, I was faced with a choice. I could return to my simple life in Nelson's Hood, far from the bewildering daily matters of court life, or I could remain within the palace as a trusted advisor to the royal family. Ultimately, I chose to return to Nelson's Hood, to the village that had always been my true home. As I bid farewell to the palace and the people I had come to know, I carried with me the lessons of authenticity, integrity, and the importance of genuine connections. The kingdom had weathered a profound bewilderment, and now, with the curse lifted, it could look forward to a future of unity and prosperity. The real Princess Amelia had returned, and I had found my place among the people who had known and loved me for who I truly was. As I settled back into my life in Nelson's Hood, I reflected on the bewildering journey that had led me to this point. My adventures had been filled with challenges and surprises, but they had also brought me to a place where I could make a difference and be true to myself, no matter how bewildering the circumstances. Life in Nelson's Hood had returned to its tranquil rhythm, and I had embraced the simplicity and authenticity of my role as Emma, the blacksmith's daughter. The palace and the bewildering daily matters of court life were now a distant memory, a chapter in my life that had come to a close. In the days that followed, I continued to help my stepfather at the blacksmith's forge, finding solace in the familiar rhythms of the village. My bond with Marjorie and Samuel remained unbreakable, and they were by my side as trusted friends and confidants. One day, as I was going about my duties in Nelson's Hood, a royal messenger arrived, bearing a letter sealed with the royal crest. It was an invitation to return to the palace once more, not as Princess Amelia, but as a guest of honour and a trusted advisor to the royal family. King Vincent and Queen Rosalind had recognised the loyalty and dedication I had shown during the tumultuous events that had transpired. They wished to extend a unique offer, a loyal order to serve as the second princess of the kingdom, alongside Princess Amelia. The news filled me with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. It was an unexpected honour, one that I had never anticipated. The bewildering journey of my life had come full circle, and I found myself once again drawn into the world of royalty, not as an impostor, but as a trusted member of the royal family. Returning to the palace, I was met with open arms and a sense of camaraderie. Princess Amelia, who had once been the missing princess, welcomed me with warmth and sincerity. The palace staff, who had served me during my time as Princess Amelia, now regarded me as a valued member of the royal family. As the second princess, I took on a range of duties and responsibilities, working alongside Princess Amelia to uphold the well-being of the kingdom. The bewildering daily matters of court life no longer felt as daunting as they once had, and I embraced the challenges with a sense of purpose and authenticity. In my new role, Princess Emma, I focused on initiatives that promoted unity and prosperity within the kingdom. The people had endured tumultuous times, and I was determined to use my position to make a positive impact and foster genuine connections among the citizens. The kingdom had weathered many storms, from the impersonation of a princess to the revelation of the missing Princess Amelia and the breaking of a curse. Through it all, I had learned the importance of authenticity, integrity, and the enduring strength of the kingdom and its people. As the loyal order to the royal family, I carried these lessons with me, determined to contribute to the kingdom's continued prosperity and to ensure that its future was marked by sincerity and compassion. And so, the story came to an end, a tale of bewildering twists and turns, of deception and revelation, and ultimately, of finding one's true path in the midst of life's most unexpected challenges. The kingdom had endured, and I had found my place within its rich tapestry, a testament to the enduring power of authenticity and the bonds of friendship and loyalty